Good morning. I'm Hamish, CEO of a company called Minus7. We sell heating systems, renewable heat. What I'd like to discuss with you this morning is 4 points. One, explain a bit about what we do, what we're about. Then explain a bit about the struggles we've had to get our system into the market, particularly the testing regime. I'll then talk about the problems we had raising capital for this type of industry, and finally talk about what we'd like to see change. So on the list of topics, I'll be addressing the bottom one. It's about the role of regulator in this. So as I said, we sell heating systems. It's a hybrid solar thermal system where we provide, the system has 3 bits. We provide the roof of the building, which is a solar collector. Those are aluminium planks with water circulating in them. We have a heat pump, the black box there, and we have 2 thermal stores, a hot store and a cold store. The cold store is the source for the heat pump, and that effectively circulates water onto the roof where it warms up in warmer weather. We also have PV embedded in the roof, so we have a true hybrid of PV and heating in a single system. The heat of the building's heat is run off the hot store. So we keep a tank of 4 cubic meters of water at about 40 degrees centigrade, and we run the heating of the building off that hot store, which means that we can choose when to run the heat pump. We've got about 40 dwellings out there with our technology, and all the heat pumps are linked to our servers. And we can, as I say, switch them all off and switch them all on and choose when in the time of day it's best to run the heat pumps to optimize them on the basis of electricity uses and such like. So this is just a picture of a building. That's our roof. As you see, it looks like a standard slate roof. And that heats 8 apartments. That's a 64 kilowatt collector. And here's another building, a terrace of 2 houses. We're providing the heat and hot water to that dwelling. The test we've got on just now is we're embedding PV in our planks, and that will enable us to produce a 0 net carbon heating system at no running cost, because the income from the fit under the new fit will cover the cost of buying electricity to run our system. So we're 0 net cost and 0 net carbon heating system. We also, today, are economic against gas without subsidy. We don't need subsidy, and we can generate returns of 6% IRRs against gas and 17% IRRs against electricity. So economic without government subsidy. As you see, we're a hybrid system. To be able to trade, you've got to be recognised under the standard assessment procedure and listed under Appendix Q. Now, Appendix Q and the standard assessment procedure has specific technology categories, and those are air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps, biomass, solar thermal, PV, and others. As you can see, we didn't fit into any one of those categories. So we had to get tested by BRE, and again, what are we? Are we conforming to the solar thermal standards or the heat pump standards? In the end, this is 3 years worth of testing, because they thought we're a bunch of nutters at first, and so we took a long time to get started. We put our technology up there in May. They forgot about us, so didn't start testing till September. By that time, they'd missed the summer, said, oh, we have to have a complete heating season. So a whole year goes by, and all the time, obviously, you're bleeding money. But in the end, we've got through to, we're registered as a solar thermal system with equipment, and the standard assessment procedure as a specific category for us, and we're the only one in it now. Solar thermal with equipment. We then, to get eligible to the renewable heat incentive, had to get registered under the microgeneration scheme, MCS. And there are people who certify products under the MCS, and we used a company called NQA. They initially didn't accept the test done by BRE and wanted to have our whole system tested again, which was nuisance, if you can say what I mean. So we had, and lots of persuasions, lots of yada yada yada, and we're now through MCS and registered as a solar thermal system. I got involved in the business in 2008. We finally allowed to trade in late 2013. And then, as you see just now, the government's looking at reviewing the renewable heat incentive. We're in the business just now. I joined the company formally a few months ago to raise capital to commercialise the system. We're out, tested, proven product to go for the market. What we find in the capital markets just now is because of the generosity of the PV incentives, most of the EIS, the enterprise investment schemes run by the teenage scribblers in London, are going towards really low risk, stonkingly high returns PV projects and biomass projects, all essentially funded by the government. So when you come along offering something which has got implicit technology risk, like we have, and 17% return is pretty good, but it's not competitive with what PV was generating. So the capital markets have all been skewed towards PV and really low risk, really, really high return project finance into the carbon agenda. Unfortunately, just now, as you appreciate, the government is completely rethinking its renewable agenda, and so very little is moving until we hear the autumn statement about what's the future of RHI. Is the FIT tariff going to stay as it is? Are they going to follow through with those new recommendations? So again, it's causing a lot of uncertainty in the capital markets to fund new technologies such as ourselves. In the end, actually, we've been very lucky. It looks like we're going to get angel investment will give us the requisite capital to get started and to go for it. So you can appreciate that our journey has been heavily influenced by the regulator and by the regulations. We were disturbed, for example, that the government backed away from its zero carbon buildings, because one of the pushes towards our technology is obviously we can have zero carbon. And so the government backed off from that. So the regulator hasn't helped, the regulatory environment hasn't helped. But we're hugely influenced, obviously, by the subsidy regime. And personally, I'd rather there was no subsidy and we can compete on a level playing field with all the other technologies. Because we're not eligible for domestic RHI, but we are for commercial RHI due to a quirk. So we can't compete in the domestic market because air source, ground source heat pumps get 19 pence a kilowatt. Well, if you don't get that, we're not in that market. So the subsidy market has really skewed the carbon agenda just now. So my plea to government is to go to something which is technology agnostic and to really reward carbon reduction as carbon, and to see if we can take carbon out of the system, and to, as I say, and based on metering. The metering is out there just now to be able to measure how much electricity you're using and how much heat you're generating. And so we have metering and technology agnostic subsidy regime. I think that would help innovation, because what this is doing is the regulatory regime, because it's all very set into set categories, is killing things like ourselves which don't quite fit into a specific technology category. And further, the testing regime, for example, for heat pumps, the testing regime has certain temperature set points for which you're going to run your heat point, and expects a certain performance standard at, I don't know, 15 degrees centigrade. Now our system works from -7, hence the name. We have a heat pump working from -7 through to +20. So a completely wide range which doesn't fit into the test bands for heat pumps. So again, we've got a process here of testing which prevents innovation. So the combination of the regulatory environment, the testing regime, and the whole, if you like, carbon subsidy is not really encouraging innovation. And I'd much prefer something to either go away or become technology agnostic.